Are you thinking about going on an expat assignment or living overseas and not sure what to expect? Well, we are Americans that have been living overseas for 6.5 years, and today we're going to let you know the pros and cons of what you can expect when you live overseas. That's right, if you're planning on living overseas, be sure to stay till the end of this video because in the second half, we're going to tell you some of the negative things about living overseas that most people don't want to tell you.
But before we get any further, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we'll be doing more videos about expat living.
Yep, we are your expat living experts.
And also go ahead and hit that like button because we know you'll learn something new.
With that being said, I wanted to give you guys a little background information on us in case you're not familiar. We are American expats that have lived overseas for 6.5 years. We spent 3.5 years living in Luanda, Angola in the west coast of Africa. And we've spent the past 2.5 years here in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So we definitely feel like we've gotten a good feel for what it's like living overseas on 2 different continents. And today we want to share that information with you in case you're thinking about living overseas too.
Okay, so the first pro about expat living is learning a new culture.
And honestly, if this doesn't excite you, then you probably shouldn't be going overseas at all. Sorry, but it's true. Living overseas is a great way to get a new perspective on life because sometimes living in the same place your entire life, you can become kind of egocentric where you just think about the way that you do things or the way your country does things. And it's really good to get a different or an outside perspective and just see the way other cultures kind of live their lives as well. And it also gives you a chance to not only learn other cultures, but take the good parts of other cultures that interest you and think can work in your life and bring them with you back home and incorporate them into your daily life.
And when you're living in a country, that really gives you a chance to dig deep into their culture, their way of life, and experiencing things firsthand that you just can't really appreciate when you're going on vacation for a week or two.
Yeah, and it also gives you a greater appreciation for your own culture whenever you do move back home. It's easy to take things for granted that you don't realize because it's just the way that you've grown up. When we did move overseas to Angola, that was our first assignment. It really puts into perspective the things that we do have back home that we just take for granted on a daily basis. So that's also a positive side of getting to know other cultures. So if you think it's just fun to think about other cultures, to learn about other cultures, and if that's your jam, then you're definitely in the right place thinking about living overseas. Another great thing about being an expat and living overseas is the travel opportunities.
That's right. And if you enjoy traveling, but a lot of the places you want to go visit are too far away for a regular trip, when you live in a different part of the world, a lot of those vacation destinations come a lot closer to you.
So for example, when we lived in Angola, we were 3 hours away from South Africa. We were 6 hours away from Dubai, and it was about a 2.5, 3-hour flight to get to Kenya, where a lot of the East Africa safaris start. And all of those destinations from Texas would have been a solid 12 plus hours plane ride. So you definitely have more opportunity to spend more time in destinations that you wouldn't normally get the chance to just because of your new proximity.
That's right, and that was from Angola. But here in Argentina, we've also been able to do trips to Bogota, Santiago, Sao Paulo, just on a long weekend. From the States, that would have also been an 8-9 hour flight just to get there. That doesn't even include all the inter-country travel you can do while living in your new country. For instance, we've been able to spend a lot of weekends traveling around Argentina and seeing the countryside in a whole new perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely great to have a new home base to travel from and just have new travel opportunities. So I think the third benefit of going on expat assignment or living overseas would probably have to be the financial benefits. We did a video last week called Expatriate Allowances Explained, so be sure to check that out if you're thinking about going overseas with your company. We tell you all about the allowances that we've been getting over the past 6 years, and we explain them and break them into details. So check that out. I'll definitely link it below in the comments. But really, a lot of people don't know how much money you can not only make, but actually save while you're on assignment overseas. So it kind of breaks into 2 categories. And that's people that are going on an expat assignment with their company, and then people that are moving overseas for not necessarily with their company, but just for a slower pace of living or a lower cost of living. And for those that are moving overseas with their company, there's a lot of allowances that you will get, so your income will go up. There's also a chance that you will be in compound housing, or the company will help take care of some of your everyday bills. So there's a lot of opportunity to save money as well. And then for those people that are going overseas for a lower cost of living, cheaper rent, cheaper food prices, things like that, where you can live much more cheaply and your money will go a lot further in those countries versus living in the US.
Another thing to consider while living overseas is you don't quite have the same temptations that you would have living back home to go shopping and buying different things and making sure you're catching up with the latest trends. And so we've personally found that as a little bit of a benefit while we've been living abroad.
Yeah, when there's not a lot of places to shop or to go out to eat, it definitely helps you not spend as much and therefore save more money. Before we get into the cons, be sure to go below and like this video. All right, so I think now we can get into some of the things that aren't that great about expat assignments. The first one is that same culture that you enjoy getting to know, or you're curious about, or you want to learn more about. Well, that same culture is what can make it hard sometimes living overseas. The adjusting, the assimilating, that's the hard part. So whether you're trying to adjust to a new schedule, get used to the new foods in your culture, or you're trying to learn how to communicate in a new language, it can definitely be hard to assimilate to a new culture when you've lived a certain way your entire life, or you've had certain beliefs your entire life, and it can be difficult to try and find value in changing those beliefs or changing the way you do things.
For instance, going to a restaurant's a totally different experience than what we're used to. In the U.S., you get all the water you can drink. The service is a little bit faster. Usually they give you your bill before you're even finished with your meal. Been living overseas, that's been a little bit different, and it's something that has taken some time to get used to.
Yeah, it's something that will definitely get better with time. The longer you live in your new country, the more accustomed you'll get to the culture and you'll just get more assimilated.
And so another hardship of living overseas is that you're going to miss out on a lot of major activities and life milestones. While you're away, friends are going to get married, there's going to be baby showers, there's going to be wedding showers, birthdays, baptisms, all types of activities that you're just not going to be able to be a part of. And that's something that you'll just have to get used to and prepare yourself to be missing out on a few of these things while you're away. Your family sometimes will gather for a birthday and you'll be the only one left out, and it can be hard at times.
It can be hard, and also it can just be expensive. You can't go home for every event. You can't travel each time there's something going on. It would just really be financially difficult to do that. While we've been living overseas, we've actually had 4 nieces and nephews born while we were not home, and we just didn't get to see them when they were born, and honestly for several months into their life we didn't get to meet them. But honestly, you'll just get used to this the longer you live overseas, and you're really busy making your own memories, making new memories, and having new experiences that you just sort of get used to it, and you focus on the new memories that you're making in your new home. And with Zoom nowadays, it's a lot easier to communicate and be part of those big family events back home. So download Zoom and you won't feel as left out. And the final thing that we thought could be a negative sometimes living overseas is actually going home. I know that sounds crazy. Listen to us before you make your own conclusions. So if you have sold your car and sold your home and other things to move overseas, which most people do, it can be a logistical maybe nightmare to go back home each time, to try and juggle both sides of the family. So Andrew has his whole side of the family that want to see us and that we want to see. I have an entire family that vice versa, they want to see us and we want to see them. And then we have our own needs that we're trying to meet because it's vacation time for us. So trying to juggle all of those priorities in 1 week or 2 week trip back home can be a little difficult and sometimes not very fun, not very relaxing.
And that's not even adding on the financial part of it. Let's say you have to get an Airbnb, you need a rental car for a week or two. All the shopping you need to do for things that you can't get where you're currently living that you want to bring back, it can start to add up and be pretty expensive every trip home.
Yeah, it definitely can. The way we like to alleviate this is we like to have a game plan before we go home. I will make a calendar in Excel and I will literally have every single day planned out from when we arrive to when we leave Texas. And I have it planned out to who we're gonna stay with, when we're gonna be at their house. And I'll also block out certain days for Andrew and I to do things on our own because it's still our vacation too, and we need to have some rest and recovery days in there as well. I'll also send this calendar to our family. So it's a bit of front loading where they know ahead of time where we're gonna be. So that way, if we're in the middle of our stay with them, they won't be surprised if we have a day planned to go to the other family or a day planned to hang out with our friends. Everyone's kind of aware before we go what to expect and where we're gonna be. And we've definitely noticed that that's helped with our vacation time whenever we do go back to Texas.
So that wraps up the pros and cons we found about life living overseas.
Yep, and if you have learned something new today or something that you might want to consider before moving overseas, give us a like below. And also be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that red button down there, because we are your expat living experts, and we're going to be back next week to give you some more information about what it's like being expats living overseas. Bye, guys.
All right.